Q&A. So you guys can go ahead and hop on in the chat. You can let me know where you're watching me from, and you can let me know what time it is where you're watching. I will start. It is 9:38 p.m. Eastern Time in Atlanta in the United States. Welcome, everybody. We're going to be doing Ask Me Anything. It's your chance to ask me any question in the whole wide world. I see you, Chaco. Welcome to or from Orlando. We're in YouTube right now, Victory Life Podcast 7603. We're going to do Ask Me Anything. So you guys are welcome to pop your questions in the chat. Of course, YouTube is going to get the first priority on the questions because I can reach them easier. Unfortunately, my other stream is further away, so I can hardly reach it. But yeah, so we're going to be doing Ask Me Anything, but you guys are welcome to ask me any question in the whole wide world. It's your chance to ask me anything. And as we get started, I do want to connect with you guys a little bit. My latest updates on my fitness journey. I want to give you guys the latest because it seems like each week I uncover something new. I'm gonna give you guys an inside scoop. But go ahead and let me know again where you're watching from. Let me know what time it is where you're watching. It's your chance to ask me anything. Go ahead and pop it in the chat. I want you guys to flood the chat with your questions, and I'm gonna take your questions one at a time. And while the chat is getting flooded with the questions, I thought I would give you guys like a little bit of inside scoop. Fitness journey. I've been on my fitness journey for, it'll be tomorrow, will be a full 1 month. Awesomely, I lost 10 pounds. And it's taken me a while to figure out what works for me, but I have figured out what works for me. I feel like that's another video, but I will say that I wanted to give you guys insight because I've been doing intermittent fasting, and something happened where like my taste buds have changed over time, and now, and by the way, Chaco, I'm gonna get to your question. I like that question. Um, by the way, I realized that like my taste buds changed with this whole thing. And so now, like, whereas before I craved a lot of sweets, my cravings went away completely. And so here's the interesting twist. The interesting twist is I haven't been craving any sweets since I've been doing intermittent fasting. I haven't had any of those issues. And I stopped taking all my vitamins for a while because I wanted to really figure out what things were like running up insulin levels because, as you guys know, insulin makes you store fat. So I was like, I was just being extra cautious. And I realized that one of the things that was messing up my process was a lot of my vitamins had all of this fructose in it and all these just weird sugars in it. So I replaced as many of those vitamins as I could with things that had none of that. So just pure, clean vitamins. I found out that that was good. That was a win. I couldn't fix them all. And there was a few of them that remain with like stevia and stuff. Shout out to you guys. Welcome everybody. Everybody hit the like button really quick if you haven't already. We're going to do a live Q&A. Ask me anything in the whole wide world. You know I love the Bible things, but I really want to tell you guys my little tips and trick about my fitness journey because I've been on a fitness journey really half the year, but it was the last month that I suddenly started getting the results because I had to figure out my own body. So, and what I used to do a long time ago hadn't worked, and so I needed to start all over. So the new tip for the week that I learned on the fitness journey is that a couple of my vitamins, I had to redo my vitamins again because they had sugars in them. But one of them, like two of them, I couldn't actually fix because it's just the way my vitamins were. I couldn't fix them. So they had stevia in it, and one had like monk fruit extract in it. And I did the research on it because it was such a small dose. I figured it's gonna be okay. It's not gonna mess up anything with like it's not gonna mess anything up. It's just a little bit. It's not gonna mess anything up. Well, y'all, I've been feeling so good the entire month. And then I have not, see, this is the benefit of really, really eating clean and adding things back one at a time like a baby. When I added the two vitamins back, one of them had monk fruit extract, the other one had stevia in it. When I added them back, something happened. And I can tell you something happened because I hadn't been taking them all month. When I added them back, the next day, I woke up with crazy mad cravings. It was insane. I had not had any cravings. Like for the most of the month, I had not had cravings. As soon as I added that, the two vitamins that I had back, most of them I had to like just basically toss out, like put in the back of the fridge. But the ones that I kept were two that I could not find a replacement for. And women, Black women particularly, we need vitamin D and vitamin K. So that's one of them. And the other one is biotin, and it's like a very concentrated biotin. So I wanted to keep those, and I get those in my regular multivitamin, but I needed higher doses. So those two I kept, and I added those back first. And I noticed the next day after I took them, my craving, I woke up, I had not been waking up hungry. I woke up like 8 a.m., starving, ready to eat. It is like, what is all this? I was craving. I had not been craving. So y'all, I really want to remind you guys, if you guys are on a fitness journey, I don't want to take up the whole time on my fitness journey unless you want it, because I love it. But I just want you guys to know, cautionary tale, when you clean up your whole diet and then you start adding things, risky things back one at a time, some of those things, I'm going to tell you that fake sugar, it did something to my brain. And so honestly, it lets me know how connected our dietary habits are to our brain chemicals. Because like I said, I hadn't been having any cravings, none of that. And out of nowhere, it overnight shot up. I woke up literally hungry. I was working. I was having to fight the hunger and fight the cravings while I was working. And I did. But the idea is I had not had that battle, and I've been doing this for a month. And the only thing that changed is I added the two vitamins back, my biotin, and then my vitamin D, vitamin K, like trio. Like it's, one of them's in one bottle, one of them's in another, and they both had like some kind of sweeteners in it. And I had not had any of that. It changed something. It changed something. And that I went to sleep and my brain went nuts. The next day I woke up, I was like craving. I was like, y'all, what I all I gotta say is our diet is full of things that when we struggle to lose weight and when we struggle with things, it is really essential if we want to win at this thing is we have to beat what's in the food supply. Because the same way my two vitamins had two little things in it, because I looked at all the ingredients for everything, our food supply is lit with stuff that is making us fight against ourselves. So I just want to say that, and I'm going to open it up to ask me anything. I want to take my first question. You guys, let me know where you're watching from, and let me know what time it is where you're watching. I will start. It is 9:46 p.m. Eastern time. This is the United States. It's Atlanta. So welcome everybody, and I'm going to start taking these questions. So my first question is in the chat. I'm going to take, oh no, where'd it go? Did I lose it? Let's see. Okay, here it is. How to overcome sadness and discouragement and betrayal from trauma. That's the first question. Hey, Chaco, welcome. Chaco from Orlando in the house. And guys, light up the chat with your questions, because Ask Me Anything is super good if you guys have a bunch of good questions. And then Ask Me Anything becomes I go to sleep early if there's not a lot of good questions. So the first question is a very good one, actually. How to overcome sadness and discouragement from betrayal and trauma. That's the first one. How to overcome sadness and discouragement from betrayal and trauma. Um, well, in the situations where I've had sadness and felt betrayed, I've had to take my mind and realize that man is fallen, that there's a fallen nature out here in the world, and remember that the same way that I needed to be forgiven of something from God, people need to be forgiven of something. Now, they need to repent, obviously, but even if they don't, we can say to ourselves, you know what? I'm gonna take my peace back by forgiving them. And in forgiving them, I'm going to actually take that issue and set it to the side in my brain, because nobody wants to be holding on to like anger or hatred or vengeance. It is it's completely something that rots our soul. So that's what I will say for that. Um, I think the other part of it is figuring it out. Like, I don't know your situation, but if your situation is where you don't live with that person, it makes it easier, because out of sight, out of mind. That's number one. So, what I want you to do is just try to, like, honestly, this particular time of the year is like, I don't know. It's always kind of, it can be kind of weird for me. Um, it could just be kind of weird for me. I'll just be honest with you. So I've already decided, in order to fight any kind of sadness or any kind of, the weather is cold, it's kind of gloomy outside a lot of times. Today was great weather, so I went out. But like the weather being like rainy and dreary and dark and cold, it's just not my season, y'all. I'm a summer warm girl. Like, pop me in the Caribbean and make me happy. But, this weather is not it. It's just, it gets dark way too early. I don't get enough sunlight. If I don't get off work early, then I'm not getting enough sunlight at all on the weekdays. And it's just, it's tough. So for me, I've just decided I'm going to have to like plan out, like, I just like got an event, an event invite for like a Christmas get together, and I wasn't planning on doing any of that. Y'all know I really don't celebrate any holidays, but I said this is good for me. Let me go, because I just honestly, I know I need to plan around the fact that this time of year is weird. I don't like the cold. I don't like the fact that it gets dark early. So I'm gonna have to plan ahead to like really fight what I know is going to be trying to come against me this season, which might be sadness, which might be loneliness, which whatever things that come against you guys. For people who lost someone, this might be your first holiday without a certain person. We have to start planning ahead right now that, oh, I need to like maybe get yourself a little busy this season, because that's what I'm going to do. I already, okay, so I don't have this, I don't have that, but what can I do? You know what? I looked last night. If tomorrow is kind of a weird day, I look to see what event can I go to tomorrow, because I might need that pick me up just to like get out the house and do something. So I found an event for 3:30 in the afternoon. If I feel like I need that pick me up, I'll just go do that. So just, I would say the night before every night, just kind of like go look for meetups. Because if you don't have like a social circle, then you just go look at a meetup. Look the night before, what thing can I do tomorrow in case I start feeling a little weary, a little stressed, a little this and that. What I don't want you to do is get stuck in the house. If you're getting stuck in the house and you're already feeling sad and down, that tends to kind of snowball. So I would say just plan to have something to do, a little something to get out the house. Um, Also, I always say get up, shower. Like for the ladies, get up, shower, do your hair and makeup, even if you have nowhere to go. Because when I took care of my patients in ICU, I would always like fluff them up, and I would always tell them the same thing: look good, feel good. I mean, they could have been super sick, but I always would fluff them up and be like, look good, feel good, right? Right? Look good, feel good. And it really is a difference. Like the last time I felt down, I was feeling all crazy. And what I did is I took my shower, put myself together. I didn't have a plan of anything special to do. But once I put myself together, I actually did feel better. And then I ended up leaving the house and getting out of the house. And not only did I get out of the house, but I ran into two different women out when I was shopping, and they were just the most amazing human beings. Randomly met these two beautiful women, and I know God did that for me. So, outside of that, I would honestly always say be sure that you pray for you before you go to bed. Put God first when you wake up in the morning. Obviously, put those things first, because you're going to need that. These are actually attacks from the enemy, and we have to know what this is. Is this sadness that comes up? We have to claim our joy. This time of year is absolutely insane for a lot of people. And what's weird is that for some people, it's like a perfectly happy season. And it's so strange to me how, on one side of things, there are people that are like having the time of their lives. And the other side of it, they're the people who are like suffering silently because because they're just suffering silently. And because people are having so much immense joy, they don't feel like there's room to verbalize that this is not my moment right now. This is a tough moment and I need support. And a lot of people, quite frankly, nowadays, they don't have a lot of social support. So, like, for me, I would probably put myself in the category that I don't have that much social support. You know, I can count my social support on three fingers. So, what I would say is just look for a meetup of some social activity that you think is healthy, godly, and healthy, meaning hiking, walking, biking, dancing, something that's going to get you up and moving and get your mind off of whatever your current scenario is helpful. You know, prayer before you go to bed, when you wake up in the morning is helpful. And especially for my ladies, wake up, shower, put your hair together, put your makeup on, like put yourself together as if you're going to do something, even if you're not, because it changes your day. It just changes your day. Even if you don't plan on doing anything, it changes your day. And it's something like, it's also just that self care, pouring into yourself is just so essential. But I would say we have to remember, like, the question was on trauma. We're doing live Q&A, guys. If you just hopped in there, be sure to hit the like button. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't. But what I was saying is, we had a question in the chat that said, you know, it's hard to lose. It's hard when you lose your safety because trauma does injure your brain, and that's true. Trauma does change the neurological system becomes wired to prepare for the worst kind of thing, and you get uncomfortable with normalcy. So you have to just practice being a little awkwardly comfortable, because if you're used to chaos, your brain is set to chaos and it starts to look for people and situations that bring on chaos. And that's what your brain is used to. So even if you're like, if you've used to if you're used to having chaos growing up and then you're looking for love, when you look for love, it feels like love when it feels like chaos, because that's what you grew up having. You almost have to allow yourself to sit in the discomfort of what feels boring. Sit in the discomfort of that and get used to it, so your brain can begin to rewire that, oh, wait, boring is normal, and that normal can be love. It doesn't have to be like chaos to be love, if that makes any sense. So I hope that helped. But yeah, be sure we're on Victory Life Podcast 7603. Be sure to come on over, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and definitely pop your questions in the chat. We're doing Ask Me Anything. It's your chance to ask any question in the whole wide world. So far, we're covering sadness and discouragement this time of year, particularly, and especially when someone has betrayed you. I find what's interesting about betrayal is we don't have to forgive and keep people close. That would be, I think, almost a mistake. We need to be realistic of who should be in our inner circle and who should not be. And I mean, I've had enough experiences of betrayal to know that I don't even need everybody in my inner circle. And in fact, you know, my inner circle is almost empty. It's almost empty. And honestly, guys, that's not a bad thing, because when it was full of hundreds of people, I'm going to tell you, I had hundreds of people, no one to count on. Like, literally no one to count on. Like, if you need something, then guys, you need something. Yeah, but hundreds of people, no one to count on. No one to count on is not a good situation to be in. So I would rather have, you know, the number of people I could count on three fingers and have people that I can depend on, than to have hundreds of people who really don't care if I'm having a hard day. They really aren't gonna pick up the phone. They really don't answer. They don't care. I'd rather have a couple of real ones. So yeah. Let's see. I got some questions in the chat over here. And you guys, it's 9:57 p.m. Eastern time in Atlanta. We're in the United States. We're doing Ask Me Anything. Go ahead and hit the like button if you haven't already. Go ahead and hit subscribe if you haven't already. It's your chance to ask me anything. Um, but let yourselves, for those of you guys who've gotten used to chaos, let yourselves sit in the peace of boredom with someone and allow that. I know it feels uncomfortable if you're used to chaos and you're used to like a childhood where everything is kind of like frantic. Your brain will associate whatever that is with love. Chaos, dysfunction, inconsistency with love. We have to rewire our brain to choose what God wants for us, whatever God thinks is best for us. We have to choose that and sit in it. And in sitting in it, prayer, those kinds of things, read our word, sit in what feels uncomfortable when God says that's healthy for us, and allow our brain to slowly rewire to, oh, wait, peace is normal. Okay, so love can feel peaceful and normal and loving, and that's God's will for me. Yes, it is. Let's see. I'm in the chat taking questions. It's your chance to ask me anything. Oh, someone said David encouraged himself in the Lord. I love that. I love that so much. Okay, guys, we're taking questions. We're in the live Q&A. Let's have a look here and see what questions do we have. Let's see. What do I think about the Book of Enoch? Book of Enoch. I'm not. I know you guys are not going to like this answer. I don't. I am very cautious about books outside of the Bible. I'm very cautious because they're not part of the canon. So there could be some discrepancies there. And then when you come across it, what are you going to do with those discrepancies? Are you going to be at peace with those discrepancies, or are those discrepancies going to begin to like eat away at things that are foundation level, which are, biblical and part of the canon of the Bible, the 66 books of the Bible? So here's what I think about those extra biblical texts. I think they're interesting. They're interesting. I'm certainly a person who believes in angels and demons. So I'm not one of those people who don't believe in miracles, who don't believe in demons, who don't, I have a ministry of deliverance as well. So I'm okay with that part. But at the end of the day, I mean, Genesis 6 gives us some insight into all the Nephilim and all those kinds of good things. Here's what I would say. If you're reading something that's not Bible, you have to be even better about separating what's Bible from what's not Bible. And if you're going to use extra biblical text to kind of um, to help you understand what something might have been like, to help you understand what times might have been like in a different year, that's probably okay to just understand, like to draw a picture in your mind. If you're using it to clarify how a word might have been used back then, that's reasonable. But I personally don't get too I don't get too locked in to the extra biblical text. It's good for just a little sugar on top. So yeah, guys, if you guys have questions, pop them in the chat. Let me know what's up. We're on YouTube, Victory Life Podcast 7603. I see you in the fam alert over there. Hey, Skylar. My fam alert's in the chat. Every now and then my family hops up in here. That's Dance Fam. Okay, let's see. So yeah, I personally I don't subscribe to it in terms of like, oh, we need to read it. I don't really dwell on it. But that being said, it could be that you've got your book of Enoch, and maybe you thumb through it, but don't get carried away and forget about the gospel. Because that's also the risk of it. If you start getting to extra biblical texts and then you start having questions about Jesus and like your salvation and things like that, please don't let it get in the way of those things. And I find that a lot of people, like, I'm going to be honest with you guys, because it's the reason why I went to seminary school. It's the reason why I went. I encountered people who had a habit of being very overzealous with extra biblical text, and some kind of way the theme is always the same when they obsess over the extra biblical text, but they don't have enough word, or they've let them like cross over in their brain, then they can mix up what's truly biblical and what's not biblical. And then they can begin to start like telling you things that are not biblical at all. And I experienced that before I went to seminary school. And I realized that I cannot depend on someone else for this anymore. I can't like just depend on them. I'm going to have to know the word for myself. I'm going to have to study the word for myself. I want people who are experts with the Bible working with me on the Bible, and I want people that are biblical and knowledgeable and, trusted sources. And the issue that I have, a lot of times I find people, they get every new book that comes out. I love new books. Okay. I'm writing a book, but all these new books that come out, that's cool. But I just don't want people to get, what's Bible mixed up with what's, not inspired word of God text. So I would just caution you with it. I'm not saying that anything is all bad or all good, or there can't be some truth to anything. Definitely not saying that. But just don't let it mess up how are you thinking about Jesus, your salvation message in the gospel of Jesus Christ. Like, just don't let it mess that up. Because if you let that mess you up, then that becomes a bigger problem than anything. And that's where I begin to reject extra biblical text. Now, do I look at extra biblical text? Yes, I do, but just for historical standpoint to help frame up the picture that I'm trying to deliver. But I don't lean on it. I know that it's not inspired by God. I know that there can be error there, and I keep that in my mind. And I read the word and I allow God to give me revelation about the word for myself. So that's how I look at extra biblical text. But just be careful. Those things, I'm not saying throw them all away. I'm just saying you have to make sure that the things that are critical to your faith don't get drowned in something that is not inspired words of God, if that makes any sense. So people start twisting things that are too foundation to our everyday life. I start getting aggravated with like extra biblical text. That being said, it's always fun to read books. So, I mean, it's always fun to read books. I just want to be careful. All right. So, let's see. I'm going through questions. You guys can ask me anything. Pop your questions in the chat. All right. Let me go back here. Why would I paint my house pink? You know what? Because I'm a grown up, and grown ups can, like, once you work hard and you work hard every day, the little bit of joy that you might get is just having a pink room. It's that simple, So if it delights you to have a yellow room, then you should have a yellow room. Technically, the room's not pink. It's just a light. You just can't see the light, but there's a light there, and I can change it to blue or yellow or green or whatever color I want. But pink is my fave for the moment, so that's why it's pink. But thank you for noticing my pink, even if you hate it. We're going to call it Pepto-Bismol pink, okay? Someone asked me what was my weight loss goal. My weight loss goal is actually, it started off just let me get started. And then I was like, okay, let me get to 10. I hit my 10-pound goal, but now I'm like, let me do another 10. So I think I'm down a total of 12 pounds. So I have 8 pounds till I hit goal. So you guys know how it is when you're like cranking in on the last few. When you crank it on the last few, it gets a little bit tight and slower. Someone said here, do I do breakfast? I always break my fast, but I don't always have it at 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. So I always break my fast, but I don't necessarily subscribe to like breakfast related foods anymore because I've had to reconfigure all of my foods. So I'm on a keto diet, which means you try to keep your carbs pretty low. Like it's stronger than low carb, and it helps your body go into ketosis, which means that you're no longer using like your carbohydrates for energy. You start to burn fat for energy. So it's a great way of like losing weight because your body, when it needs energy, it's actually burning its own fat. So that's what I'm doing right now. It's my first time doing it, and I only started it about a month ago. the whole half a year I was doing a number of other things, but things were not working for me. When I switched to this is what's been working. So and now in the last 2 weeks I've been like redoing my vitamins. So I've got a new vitamin regimen, and I've had to actually clean out my vitamin cabinet because too many of my vitamins had were loaded up with like fructose and all these different things, just sugary items. And I didn't take that seriously the last half a year. But once I got on keto and I really was looking at how do I keep insulin spikes down, because insulin spikes are going to make you store belly fat, I realized that I was working against myself. So I also, you guys don't see that, you guys see that I'm not up all night. Lately, I'm not going live at night like I used to. It's because staying up all night will, although I can do it, it's like it messes up your cortisol. And when your cortisol spikes, it also makes you store belly fat. So it works against your fitness regimen. So you probably see that you probably see that, oh, like, why isn't she live at night like she used to be? Is because I have to go to sleep at a reasonable hour so that I'm not working against the body that I have. So, and then also, at the end of the day, um, at the end of the day, at the end of the day, when you think about it, um, you're just doing something good for your body. You're going to sleep earlier because you should. Your body needs rest. As your body has rest, it's doing a lot of recovery, cell building at night. That's a good thing. So that's all good. And I reject that in Jesus' name. 1187. We're not having no disease up in here. You have to remember, I've been doing all the other things for 7 months, and it was not working for me. It wasn't like like going on an insane level of keto wasn't my like first ditch effort. This was like literally, I was at the end of the road. Literally, I was about to give up. I was like, oh, it's not working. This is not working. That's not working. And then when I did this, it started working. It immediately started working. So yeah. So since it's working, um, and I've been looking for something to work, I'm like, okay, let's let it work. Let's let it work. So that's what's up. Let's see what you guys are in here talking about. Let's see. Do-do-do-do. I like it. I like it, Randy. Holy Bible is the only book that's 100% true. Amen. I want people to be steered back to that, because I really get nervous because once you introduce another Bible as equal to, once you introduce another book as equal to a biblical source, this is how people get into like cults and things where they get pulled away from the word of God. So I just don't like this, to see that. So, you know, I might look at like extra biblical texts just to frame up historical context, but not because I think it is like the official word of God, God's living and breathing word. I know that that's not inspired by God. Um, do 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 do. So this idea of books in the Bible being removed, let's cover that really fast. This idea about books in the Bible being removed, to me, that's not accurate or true. What was is that in the early, right after Jesus died, we still had people, the disciples were putting together books of the Bible. Eventually, around 100 AD or so, those books were pretty much done. The early church actually was using those scriptures during that time, and it was part of their regular church services. So, as Jesus was alive, he was referencing Old Testament scriptures when he was alive. And then after his death, you could see that the disciples, those who were walking closely with him, etc., a lot of those people had something to say about the life of Jesus, and they placed that information in those books. With that being said, when it came time to decide which books would be canonized and not, it wasn't that something was taken out. It was never allowed entry because that's how the canon worked. It's that we were looking at that time for to see who was walking closely with Jesus or within a close indirect working with Jesus during his life. those were the kinds of people that were allowed to submit books of the Bible. When it seemed like something happened too many years after his life, it wasn't allowed in the Bible. Um, those things that, um, like I said, those things that were taught during the early church time, those things were considered already like legitimate things to teach because it was written by people who they thought were legitimate people close during the time that Jesus was alive. And it was already part of the early church teaching. So those types of things, those types of books were brought in as and canonized. And things that, let's say, I want to ask you a question, like when it comes to like your great 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 grandparents, do you know that person? Do you know like their favorite food, where they worked? Do you know like what was some common thing that they would say? Probably the answer is no. And like these are basic things if you're close to someone, their favorite food, the common things they would say, what they did for work. So if you think about like, I can't do that with my great, great, great grandparents to go back a couple of generations and name any of those things. Heck, I might not even know those people's names. So when you get to a point where you can go 2, 3 generations back, you don't know names, you don't know much about these people, this becomes problematic. So if we want to take someone great, 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 and then say we're gonna go backwards and then try to like go forward and try to take something from a time that's far from Jesus's time, we're gonna end up with people who don't have the knowledge from the walking time of Jesus. So things that happen like 3 generations later, that stuff was not included. So when you think about it, that's how we end up with Islam. 600 years after Jesus, they have a book magically. Do you guys see that? That's how you ended up with Islam. These things aren't the truth. So, gotta say it. I know I'm upset some people out there, but it's okay. Gotta tell you the truth. The truth is still the truth. Glad I have a day job because me walking around here telling the truth is not winning me any rewards. But do you guys see what I'm saying? That's how people get led astray. You get somebody who's 500 years later who gets some fancy ideas and they want to submit some book and as the word of God, they didn't know Jesus. They didn't even know the works of Jesus. They weren't connected to him at all. And they certainly don't have a direct line of sight as to something that happened. That's not legitimate. And so what was not accepted and canonized was something like, people knew those writers. They knew those people at the time. And let's say you guys come to my live. I say some controversial stuff every now and then, but you also know what I would never say. I would never say, go crazy, live your best life. So if somebody read something that I wrote and it says, Hannah says, go crazy, live your best life, then that's not me. Just that's not my character. That's not something I would say. You know me from attending my lives a few different days. So I would say that was part of how they decided to not allow a book into the canon. They didn't allow it because they're like, well, I know Hannah. She lived during the time of Jesus and she wouldn't say something like live your best life. So that's somebody who's fake me out using her name trying to get something submitted. So those things didn't get included. So it's not that something was removed, it's that some things were not included because they didn't match the early church teachings. It wasn't written during a time that was close enough to the time of Jesus. It wasn't written by a person who was walking closely with Jesus, so it didn't make sense. Those are the reasons why those books were included, and those ones that didn't get included got left out. But people are picking them up and then now trying to consider them as 100% word of God, which we should not do. We should, maybe it's interesting. Maybe there are some things that are true, but we can't consider them without error, is what I'm saying. So you got to be careful because once you think there's an error in something, then what part is true and what part is false? That's what I would say. All right, let's have a look. See here. Somebody said trauma can lead to toxic relationships, and I absolutely agree with that. Let's see. Someone asked me a question. What are the top 3 lessons my relationships have taught me? Well, that's a good one. Somebody's deep in this chat today. Top 3 lessons. Let me think about it for a second because that's deep. That's super deep. That's so deep. The top 3 lessons are, I'm going to just speak to women for a second. I know that my audience isn't majority women, but I'm going to speak to women because I'm a woman. And so that's my experience. The first thing that I would say is don't bother dating people who are not ready. That's number one. I think it's the biggest time waster, and time is not on our side. For women, time is not on our side because as time goes on, men tend to look for women who are younger. That's not my, it's, I don't make the rules. I don't like that, but it is what it is. Since men tend to look for women who are younger, and that's proven time and time again, you don't want to waste precious years trying to be in a relationship thinking it's going to lead to marriage with someone who's truly not ready. So the moment a man tells you, I'm not, they start a sentence with, I am not ready for, just move on. Just move on. I'm just move on. Unless you can keep them if you don't care about having kids. You know, you can keep them. You know, if you don't really care about marriage, and nowadays some women don't care about marriage, you can keep them then. You can keep them. If they're not ready and you don't care about marriage, if you care about kids, you should care about marriage. So, if you care about kids, you should care about how much time you spend on each person. I would just say if someone verbally tells you they're not ready, then it should be a showstopper for a woman. Not because they're not good people and not because they can't get ready later, because over time, people get ready all the time. But you don't want to give someone who's not ready 4 years. I've done that. I've done a couple of 4-year relationships. People ask me, why are you single? Because I wasted time 4 years and then 4 years and then 3 years. That's why I'm single. You can literally lose a decade in long-term relationships where people are just not ready. And I will add this. So don't even, as soon as they say, I'm not ready, for whatever your question was, if your question is, you know, are we exclusive? Can we be exclusive? Are we exclusive? If the answer is, I'm not ready, end it today. End it like, end it. Line in the sand. Don't talk anymore. Just move on. Move on. Full stop. Full stop. Okay. If you are dating and your question was about marriage, if you're asking that question and you're like 30 days in, then I have more questions. If you're like a year into a relationship as a woman, if you are 1 year in and you happen to have that conversation about what does it look like for marriage and, you know, like, what are we doing? If you have the what are we doing conversation after a year and someone tells you they are not ready, full stop, move on. If you're living together, move out. And I mean that. I stand on it. Move out, drop it, move on. Close the book on it. Don't open that book again. Close it. Don't go back unless they show up, not with like puppy dogs and kitty cats and how is everything. Only reopen the door if a ring shows up on your front door. If a ring and a date, let me be clear. Because people like to get engaged for 7 years, from what I can see. Do not reopen the door. If they show back up with a ring and a date for marriage, then move forward with them. If they show up with some talk and some tears and they want to get back where they left off, close the door, lock it, and never open that door again. This is what I'll say. Don't ever give a man who doesn't give you some sort of understanding of what is next and what the timeline may look like. Don't give any man more time after a year. None. I don't care how cute he is. I don't care how rich he is. I don't care how godly he is. I don't care. I don't care. Don't give any man longer than a year when there's no plan. He's not certain about you. He doesn't know. No, don't do it. He doesn't know, doesn't have a plan, hasn't laid it out, doesn't have a timeline, isn't sticking to it. I can completely promise you, if it's a year, you're not in the inner circle. You're not in the know with the family. You don't have, look, girlfriends. If you are dating a man and it's a year and you don't have a sister fighting for you on the inside, you don't have a mama or a daddy fighting for you on the inside, you got nothing. You got nothing. Just move on. You got someone who is commitment phobic, and if you gave them the good stuff, they're not gonna marry you. They're not gonna do it. They're not gonna do it. There's no incentive left because there's no curiosity left. It is what it is. I don't make the rules. I'm sorry. And the one caveat that I do have is I'll say there's one caveat is baby daddy situations. Not that I promote baby daddy situations, because you guys know this is not the channel for that. This is definitely not the channel to promote these things. But if you're like, you guys have to remember, I'm thinking beyond the fleshly needs of a human. I'm thinking to the position of what's it like for a child, and what's it like when you're trying to replace their biological dad with the new dad. It is so toxic and hard for them, and such a struggle for them to get used to some other man in your home who's trying to lead and guide them. It is so difficult and often traumatizing for them. I would say the caveat to some of that is baby daddy situations, which in of itself can be toxic. But giving your kid's father the second chance often makes sense because it's not about you. And there is going to be some suffering along that path, by the way. That's not going to be an easy road 9 times out of 10. But the difference, it's not about you. It's about your kids. That helps protect your kids from being abused, from being mishandled. I'm talking about, SA abuse and other kinds of abuse, because that's that man's biological child. So there's some innate protections when a man is in the home of the woman who bore his children. There's some biological things for protection and care that are automatically going to just show up in his bloodstream that is very hard to get from someone who didn't bear those children. A lot of times, a guy who didn't bear those children, I don't know where they get some of these great fathers from. Some people get them. I don't know where they get them from, because it has to be sent by God. Right? So what's my other lesson? I guess my lesson so far. So calculate them up for me, MW. Lesson number 1 is really after a year, you're not going to learn anything new about a person, pretty much. So all the waiting games that people take, like they want to learn and know more, they want to know the person more and more and more and more and more. After a year, and I've had multiple long-term relationships. After a year, I don't care if you're dealing with someone who is a deceiver or someone who is honest. Generally speaking, after a year, you're not going to learn anything that you haven't already learned in the 12 months. That's why I say get it moving. Get it moving. Because you don't have time. As a woman, you don't have 10 years to give anyone. You guys see how I calculated up? I spent over 10 years on, I'm not going to say like, I wasted. I'm not going to say wasted, but you guys see what I'm saying. I got enough information to write books. So it's not wasted, but it didn't serve me if I wanted to get married. It didn't serve me. So I guess those are my answers to that. Like the three lessons that relationships taught me is that one, don't wait over a year. Number two, don't even give people a year. Like be more intentional about your dating in the first, 3 to 6 months. Be more intentional about who you date and don't be afraid to like not date so that you're not dating wrong people, because dating wrong people does not mean you're any closer to marriage. And even if they propose, you can't keep them. So then you're wasting your time. It's better to find someone who's already ready. Don't try to go find a man and then, oh, I'm gonna get him ready. No, no, you can't get a man ready. So you find a man who's not ready. He doesn't want you. After you date, he might want the next person, and all of a sudden he's ready. I don't make the rules. It's just how it goes. Trust me, it's happened to me too. And I hate it. I hate it. I'm hurting your feelings right now because when they say they're not ready, they just don't want you. They just don't want you. And sometimes their money is not right, you know? Sometimes it comes down to their money is not right, and so they don't feel like they can put you in a position where they can cover and protect you financially and whatnot, and it slows them down. So what does that mean? It means you need to talk about that in the first 3 months. Don't give somebody 6 months who's not even in the ready position. So your first couple of dates, definitely in the first 3 months, even if you're trying to take it easy. In 3 months, you have to figure out, is this person ready? Is they if are they even ready for these things? Do they want marriage? Are they even in position to be like, yeah, I get married if I had the right person? If they're in position where they say to you, my money is just not right and I'm not going to get married before my money is right, just move on. They've given you your answer. That's not about you, that's about their bank account. Move on. If they say like early on, the first couple of dates, first couple of weeks, oh, let's just see where it goes. You hear that? Just get it moving. Just walk. Don't even like try to engage with that. Like, just walk away from all of that stuff. Those let's see where it go people, those people are going to have sex with you and they're going to leave you. That's what they're going to do. I can actually map it out for you. They don't have any long-term interest. So women have to be very intentional the first 3 months to identify if someone is currently ready for marriage. Not do they want them. Being ready doesn't mean you're it. You have to first identify, are they ready? Were their money for them? Do they feel that their money is ready? It's all like subjective. Do they feel that their money is ready? Do they feel that they're emotionally ready? Do they feel like they want to have a wife in the house? Do they want to live with some other person? Do they want to lead a household? Do they want to have kids? These things, honestly, if you're going beyond date 5 and those things aren't aligned, you already are on the wrong track. You're literally just wasting all your time. And wasting time doesn't seem like a lot until you have 3 long-term relationships and a decade has passed, and now your ovaries are like this. Hurry up. Hurry up. Hurry up. We're running out of time. AKA my ovaries. AKA mine. Hurry up. You're running out of time. Right? So this is what I'm saying. Like, we don't have time for that. So women need to really, really, and really young women, I would say, young women need to be dating not all this boss babe stuff in their early 20s. I don't know. Feminism has destroyed the world. Throw away, flush boss babe stuff down the toilet, flush all that down the toilet. If you're in college, 50% of your time should be studying, yes, but 50% of your time should be looking for your partner, your life partner, not your casual partner, not your party partner, but your actual husband. Because as you get out in the world, the circle just becomes more and more limited, because where do you get a good guy? Where do you get a good established guy? Where do you get a guy who's, up and coming and still trying to learn and grow and figure things out and become something? The the circle starts to become smaller. And even though you can find them, a lot of them are married later. So People are getting married. And the thing is, you have more options between 18 and 25. After that, every 5 years, the options are getting different and more limited. And that goes for men and women. So, and the people who are left in the boat, a lot of them have interesting attachment styles that are not able to fully connect, not able to fully love, and all these things. That's who's last to get married. The first to get married are people that have very secure attachments, generally, oh, I had a nice upbringing, ready to get married, doing things on a regular cadence, like dating and dating seriously and proposing. They're kind of doing that on a regular timeline. People that like wait and wait and wait, sometimes something's going on and they're going to be non-committal. You're going to get more of those the more years that pass. So you wait till you're 35 to try to get married. The people you date, you're going to find a lot of people are non-committal. Why? Because if they wanted to commit, they would have done it when they were 30. They would have done it when they were 28. So the people that are left by default didn't want to do it early because they were scared to do it. So they may have still a lot of those fears, and it doesn't happen easy. So yeah, I would just say date people who are ready, date people who are intentional, and when you realize they don't want what you want, move on, cut your losses and move on. And I would also say stop sleeping with these people when you don't even know these things, even if you're worldly. I'd say stay abstinent. But from a practical wisdom, worldly perspective, I'm seeing women having a tendency of sleeping with men when they're not exclusive, which is not a best practice for hygiene and otherwise. It's not a best practice emotionally, spiritually, soul ties, hygiene, STDs, sexually transmitted demons and diseases. It's not wise on a number of different fronts, and it is the ultimate way of getting a soul tie, and they begin to leech and suck you dry. At the end of the day, you have sex with someone when you don't know what you're doing, you end up attached to someone who doesn't want what you want. And you're, as a woman, it's hard to break off of that because we are not men. It is hard to break off from that. So once you're attached, now you're into this zone where you're wasting time. And I'm just going to say wasting time because if you want a baby and they don't, now you're wasting time. If you have a baby with them and they didn't want it, they may abandon you. Now trying to do the baby by yourself becomes hard. Not impossible, but it is a hard life. It's these are ask people that are single moms. It is not easy. It is a hard life. And then if you want to date after you have kids, guess what? Now you got to find a babysitter. Babysitters cost what? They cost money. It's not free. Now a date costs you your outfit, your makeup, your hair, your nails, plus a babysitter. You got to pay for that in order to go out. Now you need to date intentionally. Do you see what I'm saying? To date intentionally, you go out, you've paid $60 for a babysitter to go out with a man who's non intentional, who doesn't want marriage, who doesn't want to step into the household. They aren't doing that. They won't do that. See? So you want to do that while you're still single before you have kids. So yeah, I could tell you a bunch of things. I'm going to stop there. I'm going to stop there because I could give you a book of lessons. I'm going to just stop there. Those are my lessons for women for romance. um, Somebody said I go on Tinder. Good luck. I mean, I don't know how that place is. I I I went on Tinder back when it was brand new, and it wasn't so great back when it was brand new. So later on, it just became something completely different. So you won't catch me on there now. I'm sure it's not the app. I think it's the people. Let me be clear. Let me not be bad. Let me be kind to Tinder. I'm sure it's not the app. I think it's the dating culture and the people using the app. The app in itself is a useful tool to like find people that you would have not otherwise found. But if people that are using it have wicked behavior, then that's what you have access to. So hopefully nowadays they have like godly behavior, and then that'll be great. Um, but Yes, I agree with you, trauma. Simple sugar is the problem. Yeah, complex carbs are better than simple carbs. But bum bum. Okay, let's see what you guys got in the chat. I see more questions. Do I have little people? Yes, I have a little person. How does one know when they're being complacent in life and mean to accomplish more? Or is doing too much running ahead of God? Is it supposed to be content with what they have? Are they supposed to be content with what they have now? Okay, how do you know if you're being complacent or if you are running ahead of God? Couple of things. Because I'm one of those run ahead of God kind of gals, so I can speak on that. I've had to learn. Um, I've had to learn when I feel drained that God has not called me to feeling drained. And I've had to learn that when I feel like I'm pulled in too many different directions, God has not called me to that. This is where I start to know I'm functioning in my own strength, and this is not God's design right here. As soon as my body feels too tired or feels too pulled in too many different directions, I honestly have a tendency of doing that. But I have like stopped that. So, or I've improved it. I've improved it a lot. So like you guys see, like one example is I go live. Perfect example. I was going live and staying too late. That wasn't good for my body. The next day my body would hurt, right? Not only that, it's not good for insulin and my metabolism. That's not good for my body, working against my personal fitness goals. So I'm like, God hasn't called me to that. So what do I do now instead? Do I still try to go live? Yeah. Am I going live less? Yeah. And I try to bake it into what I'm already doing. So I'm already out on the walk. I know it's not convenient. This is more convenient because I can actually read the stuff better and all. But at the end of the day, at least if I didn't have a chance to go live tonight, I would have went live. At least I went live, right? So I'm trying to build in what I'm already doing already with going live 2 for 1, right? So that I'm not just sitting and then not getting a second thing done. So that's one. So if I didn't have a chance to go back live tonight, I wasn't going to feel guilty. I wasn't going to beat myself up over it. I was just going to say, I've done enough for today. I did what I could do and I put myself first. And I have to tell myself, put myself first because that's not like a natural thing. I have to tell myself, hey, don't forget today you know what I'm proud of today? Today I'm proud that I slept in. I'm actually proud of that. I'm proud that I slept in. I'm proud that I ate on time. I'm proud of that. And people who struggle with like getting too many things done and overperforming, they will feel me on that. I let myself rest. My body needed that. I barely have a chance to do that. I let myself rest. I ate on time, exactly on time. Then I could have went live a little bit earlier, but I was like, nope, I should eat again before I go live. That way I'm settled when I go to bed. So these are things like showing me that I can put myself first, and I'm showing and proving to myself I can put myself first and still get the things done that I want to get done. So when you begin running ahead of God, you're going to notice that you feel weak or you don't have strength or you feel drained. That's number one. And now notice with this, I'm not feeling drained. I'm like, okay, what small thing can I accomplish? I'm giving myself a smaller goal to accomplish and not saying I have to get everything done. Now, trust and believe I got some things I need to get done before the end of the year. So I'm working, but I'm just trying to balance it all. So when you feel like you're pulled in too many directions, that's not God, number one. When you feel pulled, when you feel like you've said out loud, I'm going to do this, maybe you promised this person and that person, and then all of a sudden you feel stressed. Nope, that's not God. Now you know that you're going in a direction that God hasn't led you. And the devil loves for us to be overwhelmed. He loves for us to be pulled in too many different directions. That's how you know. You're going to be tired, drained, exhausted, and you're going to feel stressed because of it. So when you're doing what God has you do, you're going to feel joy. Like I'm live, I feel joy, I feel energetic, I'm not tired. I got some of my other personal things done. Does that make sense? So, you can be doing what God wants you to do, but doing it in your own strength. That can be bad. That's as bad as not doing what God wants, if that makes any sense. Um, it really comes down to relationship with God. That's the hardest thing. When you're talking about being complacent in life and accomplishing more, like, what does it accomplish for the kingdom as well? Like, what does it accomplish for the kingdom? So if I'm like, oh, I want to switch my personal job, right? That's fine. Does switching my personal job offer me more money and more flexibility so that I can do more kingdom things? See, that makes sense. If I switch my job and I'm now more stressed, I have more money, but I'm more stressed, and now I do fewer kingdom things, well, that's not really God. Do you see the difference? That's accomplishing more, made more money. I got more status. I got more cars. I got more bank, right? But at the end of the day, can I do more kingdom stuff? Now I don't go live at all because I'm stressed and I'm always busy and always working. Like, that's not a God thing. So when you're running ahead of God, you have to look in every situation and see, like, am I able to still put God first? Is God able to get the glory from some of this? Even if you got secular work that you do, like me, I have secular work that I do, but it gives me flexibility so that I can do this. It gives me flexibility. It's not taking away. Does that make sense? So there are other jobs that I could totally like, this will pay me more. That'll pay me more, but I already know the trade-off. The trade-off is like, I'm gonna make more money, but I already know how stressed out I'll be. I know how little time I'm gonna have left. I already know exactly that package, what I get with that package. I've already done that before. So I'm like, stay where I'm at. So I've already in my head gone through that where I'm like, well, unless I'm getting upgraded to where I have flexibility and money, then it's going to start working against my kingdom goals. So I need both. I need flexibility and money. If it's not doing that, it's going to come against my kingdom goals. So, you know, that's all. Now, kingdom goals don't keep a roof over my head. So I'm not one of those people who's like, oh, just do your ministry and that's it. Like, I would go hungry. I wouldn't be able to feed my kid. Do you guys know what I'm saying? So I'm not one of those people who thinks, well, God's called me just to do kingdom work, and so I can quit everything and I could just depend on the kingdom. No, go to work. That's me. Go to work. But yeah, so what are some of the do's and the do nots on the Sabbath? Why is the Sabbath Sunday instead of Saturday? I just think the do's and don'ts of the Sabbath are really make sure that you're honoring God on the Sabbath. And my thought is really and truly honor God every day. If you honestly, you're not going to miss by honoring God every day. One of the ideas of the Sabbath is like we're taking rest, but we're taking rest and we're honoring God. So if you're taking rest, but then like you watch the game, but you're not honoring God, then where's God getting the glory in that? So the idea is we want some specialized time for our body to physically rest, but we want some specialized time to also focus on the goodness of God, relationship with Him. And I don't even think it's a lot to ask when you think about it. Like, if you were in a relationship with a woman or a man and you only got one day with that person, if you only got one day with that person, that's not a lot of time. If you're like me and you tend to like a lot of time with your partner, then one day is not a whole lot of time. So we really should try to spend as much free time with them and grow that relationship as much as possible. Even if it's a few phone calls and a few get-togethers, a few phone calls, text, letters, whatever that is, we have to do something to build that relationship. So I think the Sabbath is so much more about how can we honor God, build that relationship, use the time in a healthy way, and also give your body a chance to rest, physically rest. there's something about from the I worked with one doctor who was like an Orthodox Jew. So um that we don't have the same values, the same beliefs exactly, but I was able to like monitor his behavior. And one of the things, and he was a very kind man. We had a good relationship, like work relationship and personally, as well. But one of the things I noticed about him is that the structure that he had in his life actually gave him balance between work and family. And so, like a certain time of day on Friday, he was like out of there and he was doing his dinners and stuff like that. And I, on the other hand, was getting out crazy hours late, this, that, etc. And honestly, I tried not to even select jobs that have me in a space where for sure I'm going to take this job and for sure I'm just going to be overworked all the time. For sure. I want to like understand job description and understand, okay, this is the amount of work this job is requiring. This is what they say. This is the reality, the volume of work that I'm going to be doing. This is the pay that makes sense. Okay, let's move forward. He had a good sense for the amount of work he needed to do on paper and then in reality. And his stopping point was his stopping point. And then he went home. And I knew him at a time where I was an absolute workaholic. And it was interesting that even in him not ever saying anything, that seed was planted that someone understood work life balance, even though I didn't understand it. And I didn't understand it for many years and could not get that together for many years. He taught me that. And I thought that was interesting and useful information that now that I'm more mature, I look at that and I don't say, you know what, 10,000 more, 20,000 more. I don't do that. I don't play that 20,000 more game. I'm like, nope, look at my total quality of life. What is going to enhance my quality of life? This is the things I'm thinking, not just money. And yes, I am thinking about money when I switch jobs. I am. Let's keep it real. But I'm also thinking about my quality of life. This is going to give me money and degrade my quality of life. Overall, this is going to be a loss. This is a no. And then I look at another job and I'll be like, this overall is going to increase my quality of life, but the money is about the same. Well, do I really want to switch around and then end up with some boss I don't like? Then I have to weigh all that because that's the reality. Once you switch, it might not be the job that you hate, it might be the boss that you hate. These things happen. So I'm like, no, that doesn't make any sense. So that's how I make those decisions. I got off track. I'm just going to say Sabbath is a good time for us to focus on God. But personally, I think every day is a good time to focus on God. If we start our day with God and end our day with God, we're going to be more grounded. We're going to be better off for it. Are there good Christian ways to get to know someone for courtship as an alternative to dating? If I'm trying to get to know somebody for the purpose of courtship, I think you have to start with circles where Christian people are. Because if you start in circles where people who are not Christian are hanging out, you're going to end up with someone and it's going to be unequally yoked. So, and they're not going to understand your values. They're not going to understand your standards and they're going to try to shame you for it a lot of times. Or they're just going to like walk away a lot of times. You're going to end up wasting time. So, I think you just have to be in circles where Christian people are, which typically comes from church and conferences. And this is the beauty for men. You can go to every church and there are very few men and there are tons of women. You can go to every church conference, very few men and tons of women. I would say that is how you get to know people and then just stay friends. And don't stay just at your church. Visit other Christian churches, go to other Christian conferences and move around in those circles. Go across the country at different churches and different church conferences. Get to know some of those people and don't like just jump into dating them. Just get to know them a little bit. And, maybe you're part of like, one of their like volunteer for something or something, like maybe volunteer for like a table or go do things like that. Generally speaking, if you find a church that has like a singles ministry, they'll have an opportunity for you to do things with the single people. That's a good way like to get started. So if you have like a couple of different churches you go to and you kind of get yourself like, you know, into some of their events, then you're going to start meeting people like that and just be friends and meet them until you feel like, oh wait, I feel like I've got someone who reciprocates, because ultimately you can like someone and you honestly meet someone who reciprocates, and you don't want to have to be a person who's like, I'm begging for them to reciprocate. Like that is ultimately toxic. And this is what happens with a lot of people. I don't know. I feel like it's almost like spreading all over the country kind of a thing. It's so many people are looking for love, and their heart is open to someone, and that someone is, their heart is not open to them. So it's only one-sided. So I would just say, um, you that's the way you get to know different people, is go to different Christian related events. Some of them are going to be like, it could be a bowling event. Like I have like a Christian group in Atlanta. I've not been going to the events, honestly, transparently, but there's a Christian group here for me to go. And I said, if I need to do something, I'm just going to go hang out with them. Right. So I haven't been going to the events, but there is a Christian group here, um, of Christians who are single, and they have events in Atlanta. I'll probably start going, hanging out with some of them just for like a little fellowship here and there. But you know how I am, like creature of habit, and I got so many things on my plate. Um, but as I finish like wrapping up, just so you know, as I finish wrapping up, I like working on a website right now, a second website. I'm working on my books. Like once I get some of those things out of the way, then I'll do some of that socializing. But that's my plan. So these are Christian people, and it's Christian, it's events that are like, it's not going to be like getting drunk at a bar kind of events. It'll be just things that we're doing to meet up together. And I'm not going to date anybody in there. I'm just going to kind of just go and hang out and socialize a little bit, to be around like-minded individuals. And perhaps they'll know someone and they'll introduce me, or I'll know someone, I'll introduce them, kind of a thing. That's my thought, is just to be meetups, Christian circles, events, Christian conferences. If you're doing that, you're meeting people. And women have their way of being, dropping their like pencils and like dropping their handkerchief and, being super cute. They have their ways of doing it where they make themselves known that they kind of like you. And then you can do your ways of letting yourself know, letting them know that you're kind of interested. Once you have what seems like reciprocal something, go ahead and throw it out there. And if they don't bite, they don't bite. You just move on. But I think at some point you don't want to like hold on to it. You want to actually take a bite and initiate. And as the guy, guys have to they have to initiate. It just is. All right. I think I only have space for a couple more. Do I believe that trad based conservative women can only be a virgin bride? Um, the majority of people nowadays are not virgin anything. So I don't care which like political party you belong to. The majority of people are not virgin anything, and that's unfortunate. So that being said, yeah, I think you can be a traditional woman, be conservative, and you cannot be the virgin. But keep in mind this: the idea of this purity and all these things, God understands our mistakes, and this is part of what, when we're getting saved, we're repenting of our sins, and then God makes us brand new. So in God making us brand new, that's our opportunity to say goodbye to our old self, our old nature, our old sins, and not be a slave to them, and begin a brand new, fresh start. Now, is that a virgin? No. But at the end of the day, you're brand new in Christ. So I would say take that and begin your journey. And I think there's nothing wrong with being a traditional conservative woman and being on your new nature self, right? I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think it's better to do that than to stay in your old nature, which is counterproductive to everything that you want and need. So yeah. Somebody said biological clocks be ticking. I understand. I understand more than you, I bet. Um, let's see. Hey, Tiger. Let's see. All right, I think. Somebody said a woman with a child, who comes first? Stepdad or the child? Is the man the head of the household or is the child the head of the household? Let's talk about that really quick. That's gonna be my last question, y'all, because this is the messy one. Remember, I told you there's a caveat. Somebody asked me the question, like, what 3 lessons I would give to a woman, like what lessons learned from romance I would give to a woman. And one of the things I said was caveat. Remember, I said caveat. The caveat was if she's got a baby's dad. You guys remember I said that? Why? Not because that's good for her. It's probably gonna be a nightmare to try to recover the relationship, get things right. It's gonna probably be super hard for her. And she's probably not gonna like win a lot of things for a long time. It's gonna be sacrificial all the way. But the benefit of being with the kid's dad is honestly that now you don't have to deal with that stepdad kid who's number one thing. I already thought that through. That's what I'm trying to help people avoid. That's why I said that was the caveat. And it is what it is. Kids don't generally do well with step parents. They generally don't. They generally struggle a lot with step parents because that's not their dad. That's not their biological dad, and they can be feisty and fussy, as can, dads often struggle with these step kids. Like, they struggle too. Now, here's the problem with it. Honestly, this is a big problem for me dating, and I dated guys who had kids. I'm not dating any more guys with kids. I'm just not doing it. If they have little kids, no. And I stand on that now. And I've dated plenty of guys with kids. I know that sounds like, oh my gosh, why would she say that? It's because it doesn't work, y'all. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. It didn't work for me, at least. No, they need to be 18 up. They need to be like at least 16. At least 16. It's not that I don't want them to have kids. I honestly always preferred that. But I realize I've done it several times. The relationships do not work. It's just too hard. They just don't work. There's too much going on. At the end of the day, the lesson that I learned from that is it doesn't matter how much you like that guy or how much that guy likes you. If the kids are not ready for the dad to date, just move on, because it's going to be so much toxic chaos trying to become a family. The kids don't want you in the family. Just move on. But you're wasting your time. You're wasting your time. It's not going to be that smooth of a road. Now, I suppose some people have gotten lucky and it just worked out. It hasn't worked out for me. I'm not saying it can't work out. It just didn't work out for me. I'm personally not going to date anybody else with kids. Their kids need to be 16 and up, preferably 18 and up, meaning they have their own life. Meaning this, I prefer that them be 18 and up, not just 18 living in the house and like, meaning out of the house, working, independent, whatever that is. And a lot of kids are not like that. So they're like 21, 22. So that's why I mean adult, meaning they need to be in their apartment, moved on, in their jobs, working, or in college, studying, because I have not seen it. It's not work for me. It has not worked for me. And I'm a person who wanted that. I thought, you know, make the little blended family. I was pushing for that. I was exclusively looking for that. So it's not a desire thing. It's practically speaking, it just didn't work. It didn't work, and it didn't work on levels I was like, even where it was working, I didn't work with the guy. So it's like that's messy too. Then the kids all looped up and then you don't work with the guy. That's messy. So no, I'm not doing any more of that. And I don't apologize for it. Everybody to each their own. I'm not doing any more of that. Done with that. Done with that altogether. But they can have kids. They just need to be. And I don't even want to try it when they're little, because when they're little, then you got baby's mama drama, you know? So even if they say, oh, everything's cool, it's just too much. It's too much, and I'm not doing it anymore. But I would say this. I would say somebody asked who comes first. That's exactly the thing. Um, you start to, once you're dating someone and you fall in love and all that good stuff, that's one part. That's phase one, you know, often. And then you get brought into the family, and then you get deprioritized, is what I've experienced. You get deprioritized, and I get it. But you get deprioritized, and it becomes we versus you. I started hearing this. Um, I started hearing stuff like that often, over and over again. And women do the same thing. Women do the same thing, transparently. So when you're trying to create a family and all of this, we versus you, me and my baby, and that, no, I'm not built for it. And everybody's different. Some people are. I'm not built for it. No, I've done it several times. It's officially a no for me. It's officially a no. It's gonna have to be God whispering in my ear all the things if I'm gonna do that again, because I'm that adamantly I will not do it again. So it's been, I would say, pretty much a big waste of my time. It's been a big waste of my time. So no more for me. But I know people that seem to make it work. They seem to make it work. I'm not those people. Transparently, I'm not those people. But the kids that I was in contact with, they didn't adjust well to their dad's dating. And then I had like one who did well, but then me and the dad didn't work out. But the kids were not ready for their parents to be dating. And I specifically asked those questions. I'm like, oh, hey, like, you know, how do your kids feel about you dating? I'm not the first one, am I? Oh, no, 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 no. How do they feel about you dating? Oh, they're ready. They're ready. They're good. And then when you meet the kid, you realize they're not good. One meet, you're like, this kid is off the rails. They're off the rails. They do not want a stepmom. They sense what's going on and they're not down with it. And I'm just not going to force that. I'm not going to force myself into someone's already family. I'm not going to do it. I've tried it. It is such a mess. Never again. So yeah, you guys who have kids, you can thank the ones who had kids and they lied and said, "Oh yeah, my kids are ready." Just say your kids aren't ready and you want to date casually, because that's the truth. Those kids aren't ready. You're not going to be able to marry nobody no time soon. I give you 5 years. Those situations were like 5 years later, you can get married to them. Maybe, maybe. So I would say this is the risk of having your kids and then trying to get married. This is the risk. Biblically, you're supposed to put your marital partner first and kids second. That's the Bible. That's the Bible. Now, what happens when you have a blended family? Should that change? Actually, it should not. Actually, it should not. But does anybody do that? No, they don't. And no, they don't. No one does it. Because no one does it, when you get married to someone or try to be in a relationship with someone who has a kid and those pieces are not being honored, I can immediately tell you I was immediately deprioritized. I saw it in 2 seconds. I got deprioritized. Not only that, the kid felt deprioritized, although they weren't. I was deprioritized and I was aware of it. The kid felt it and they reacted negatively to feeling deprioritized. I I was like completely deprioritized. I was like, okay, I get it. There was no way for me to fix that. So I think at the end of the day, that is the reality of when you're a single parent. For that reason, I say, wait till your kid's 18. If you can't find someone, then just know at 18 it should get a little easier, because it's hard to do all that stuff. Once the kid is under 18, you got to deal with the exes. Exes are coming to pick the kid up. You're interacting with them. It depends on if they're normal or not. They may be like jealous. If they're jealous, if it appears that the guy is doing better now that they have you, you know, then they come back, they want to get more child support. I've seen it all. I've seen it all, y'all. I've seen it all. It's a no for me. It's a no for me. But biblically, it's supposed to be husband and wife. That's who comes first. The marital partnership comes first and kids come second. It is supposed to be that way period. And every time the kid gets prioritized above the husband or wife, that is out of God's order. It's out of God's order. It is what it is, but that is what's happening. And that's why it doesn't work. That's why it doesn't work. I don't want to date somebody and then the kid comes first and then I'm second. I don't want to deal with that. So it's just not going to work. I don't want to date somebody with kids. I don't want to come second. I don't want to come second. And at the end of the day, I also understand the kid needs certain things. So if they're not ready for a step parent, then we need to move on, because that is traumatic for that kid. They're acting out, but they're not bad kids. They're traumatized. So I'm not going to be the person that's trying to lead that and push for that. I'm just going to head out. So yeah, that's the reality. Again, like when they're like 16, they're usually wanting to be on their own, so it's not a big deal. Some of them are not. Some of them are slow, slowly moving on, so they're okay. But a lot of them, 16 and up, they're ready. Like they want to be out of the parents' hair anyway, so they're fine. They've adjusted. They're perfectly fine that their parents are married. Um, but not all of them are that way. Some of them are very attached to their parents still. So it just depends. Um, Oftentimes, 16 and up are ready. Not always. Often. Not always. But mostly if they're out of the house, then that's a good thing. They've moved on, they're out of the house, that works. Um Somebody said unless your spouse is cheating on you or beating on you. Yeah, I mean, abuse, we're not talking about abuse. But yeah, this is why I actually advocate you got a kid's father. Father's halfway normal, you're halfway normal. What you just inconvenienced, just work that out, because the reality is the kids are really not interested in a new parent. They're really not interested in that. So it becomes a really hard road. Not only that, it's hard for the kids, it's hard for the exes. The exes see, oh, wait, he's leveling up, especially like they're like, oh, who is this girl? Oh, she's this. Oh, she's that. The jealousy comes. I'm not trying to deal with all that. I'm not down with the polygamy thing. I can't deal with it. And it feels polygamous at that point. You feel like you're intruding on their family. It's a no for me. It's a no for me. Okay, guys, that's it. I'm wrapping it up. I'm going to catch you guys next time. I don't know when I'm going to be live again. It may be next week, maybe not. Maybe tomorrow, maybe not. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe when I go for my walk tomorrow, maybe I'll go live then. We'll have to see. But you guys be sure to hit the button for like if you haven't already. If you haven't already, be sure to hit subscribe and turn on your notifications so that you don't miss a live. Okay, everybody. Bye, everybody. Bye, bye, bye. Bye, everyone.